What is going on, guys? Yes, we are back finally live again for the first time in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
2 weeks, something like that?
It was just last week that it didn't work, I think.
Yeah. Well, 2 weeks ago we tried to live stream and everything, literally everything, did not work.
Yeah.
The camera did not work.
What is going on, guys?
Shut up, Andy. The camera did not work. My computer did not work. My other computer did not work. Nothing worked. In fact, even when we tried to record our podcast part, the audio still did not work. It was
insanity.
Everything was not working. So that's what happened last week. 2 weeks ago. Last week, nothing. There was no news, nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing to talk about. It was really weird. It was really weird. This week, however, there are lots of things to talk about, lots of things to discuss. We're going to jump into all of that. We're going to talk a lot of Spider-Man news. We're going to talk about the new Spider-Man comic. We're going to talk about the first reactions to Far From Home. Mm-hmm. And then, since Jason liked to take shots on Twitter, we're going to talk about our best to worst, I guess, or however we want to do it, Spider-Man movies. Since you like throwing shots at me and getting me yelled at by Nico and everyone else.
I do.
You do. And then after that, we are going to discuss about Pixar. Since this past weekend, Toy Story 4 came out, we're going to give our worst to best ranked.
A few hours ago.
We did. We saw it about 2 o'clock,
and we talked about it on our podcast.
Check it out.
It was a lot of fun, and we'll get more into Toy Story 4 when we rank the Pixar movies. We'll get more into that.
If you want to listen to our thoughts on Toy Story 4, you can do that Friday when it comes out on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play.
So if you want to hear more on our thoughts on Toy Story 4, you can check it out when it comes out Friday on SoundCloud and Google Play.
That's the new thing we're going to do, is I'm just going to do ASMR and just let you translate.
That'll be our running joke.
That'll be our running gag. So.
Yeah.
So let's start with.
We're turning into a sitcom.
Dorks Next Door, and then we need the Seinfeld. Don't get us.
You took my joke before I even made it. I cannot believe that. I can't believe it.
I can't believe you've done this.
I was literally reaching to go.
I know.
That's so funny.
Don't get us demonetized.
Yeah.
So, I'm surprised by even saying it, we didn't get shut down instantly. Just by saying Seinfeld, boom, everything shuts down.
Right. Yeah. You're right.
It's been a long day. It's been a long week.
Yeah. Well, usually I've talked about this before. Tuesday is my crash day from work.
Right.
I worked 24 hours between Sunday and Monday. I worked 24 hours between 2 days. And I had my brother over, which was great. It was so much fun. And we went to go watch Toy Story 4 with him.
Right.
But I did not get to crash.
Oh no.
I got a lot of sleep, but still, it's I'm a really introverted person, so when I wake up and hang out with him,
you got to sleep. You haven't got to rest.
Right. When I wake up and hang out with him, it was a lot of fun, and I really, really enjoyed it. But I didn't get the crash day.
Yeah.
That I usually get.
That makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
But I'm doing pretty well regarding that.
So you spent 24 hours working in 2 days, and then I think I spent 26 hours in a car in 2 days.
Yeah.
So we're both a little dead.
Yeah.
we're a little out there. So.
And then we went to a movie at noon, which I never do, and I come out of the movie and it's almost 2 o'clock, and I'm like, this is so weird. It's daylight outside.
Normally I walk out of a theater and it's 10 o'clock at night, 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and then you walk out and it's noon or 2 o'clock, and you're like, this is so weird. And that's how it'll be with Spider-Man too.
I know. Yeah.
I know. It's going to be weird. It's going to be really weird. So, speaking of Spider-Man, good segue.
Yeah.
Speaking of Spider-Man, we're going to talk about two main things today on this portion of our channel with our, I guess you can call this our live stream nerd news thing. I don't know. We're going to talk about.
Can we make that our channel name? Live stream nerd news
thing,
yeah. We'll do another change.
We'll do another change because the first one worked. So we're going to talk two things about Spider-Man. We're going to talk, and then we're going to give our Pixar best to worst ranking. The first thing we're going to talk about is the thing that pissed a lot of people off. for no reason.
Yeah, that was funny.
Which
I talked about that on Twitter.
It's so funny because people get one thing stuck in their head, and then when it doesn't happen, they get so mad about it, and it's so funny to watch. Marvel released last Thursday. Was it Wednesday or Thursday?
I don't know.
It was one of those 2 days last week that they are releasing a new Spider-Man comic in September. I think it's just a mini-series, is what they said.
Yeah.
And it is being written, I guess it was written by, and the whole thing is basically by J.J. and Henry Abrams. Mm-hmm. So J.J. Abrams, the famous director, and then his son Henry Abrams. People were not happy because they thought it was going to be something to do with Sam Raimi.
They counted down starting with a 4 shape in webs. This was an ambiguous 4 in spider webs, and then they did 3, 2, 1.
Right.
And then they announced that. And people had it in their heads, or some people did, that they were going to do a comic adaptation of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4.
Which everyone wants to see.
That's leaping to conclusions. Yeah. I don't know why you would do that.
No.
When Marvel is such a huge brand, and it's about so many different things.
Right.
Leaping into conclusions and then getting mad about it.
Right. So I thought it was hilarious.
I did too.
And I
said on Twitter.
I was actually very excited when I saw that he was writing this.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
Because I'm like, in September,
I would have rather had the Spider-Man 4 thing, but again, I didn't jump head first right into that.
Right. Yeah.
Because
why would they do that when they've already got like, one, it's completely different than, like, the movie's completely different than the comic, completely. And then second, we've already got like the MCU version of Spider-Man. Why would we even need to introduce this?
I do think it would have been cool. I do think it would have been a cool extension of that series.
Yeah.
Now that they really have the resources to do that, it would have been a cool tie into Far From Home also. Yeah. in a way. It would have been, I think it would have been a neat continuation. I'm not like heartbroken that it's not taking place. Especially since Spider-Man 4 was going to have Mysterio in it.
Was it really?
Yeah. The Bruce Campbell, who is Ash in Evil Dead, played a character in Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, and that character was going to end up being revealed to be Mysterio, and Bruce Campbell was going to play Mysterio in his Spider-Man 4.
Huh.
And if I remember right, Black Cat is in there, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
It sounded cool. Like, I would have liked to have had Spider-Man 4. And the comic adaptation would have been pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I'm not quite as excited for the J.J. Abrams thing, but again, I put up on Twitter, I was like, one of my favorite things about this week on Twitter was Sam Raimi stands getting blue-balled by J.J. Abrams. Because ever since Spider-Man PS4 came out, and they bullied Insomniac into putting that Spider-Man skin in the game.
Yeah.
Then the Sam Raimi Spider-Man fans, just like prequel fans, Star Wars prequel fans, have been so toxic and awful. And with the release of Far From Home coming up, I don't care if people are like, oh yeah, well, I like Sam Raimi better than MCU Spidey. Like, I don't care about that.
Right.
But it so easily becomes something that's toxic. It's something that's really like...
A fandom becoming toxic? What?
Wow, yeah.
Shocker.
Unbelievable.
Shocker.
Every fandom is toxic to some degree.
It really is.
But the Raimi fans have not been enjoyable lately.
No,
with the Spider-Man 4 stuff and with the MCU Spidey stuff. With Zendaya as Mary Jane, and everyone has to freak out over that.
That's so dumb.
And then with the Insomniac Spidey stuff. So
this is the best. I don't care. This is the best version of MJ we've ever seen
on screen. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. She's entertaining. Because who played her in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man?
Kirsten Dunst.
She sucks. Zendaya's like, she's entertaining. She's done a great job with like it, because this part of like this type of MJ fits so well with this character. Like, it works. Like, it doesn't have to be just because the MCU is doing it doesn't mean it has to be straight out of a comic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to always be like that, and I love that they've done this.
I don't think that MJ in Sam Raimi's movies was written to be a super likable character. I don't know if that was intentional or not. I don't think they made her unlikable. I just think that she was just kind of supposed to be damsel in distress and someone who presents Peter with another problem, because Sam Raimi's movies, like pile problems onto Peter.
Yeah.
And MJ is no exception. She's just most of the time just a problem.
Right.
So I didn't care for her in those movies. I did like Zendaya better. I mean, she wasn't in Homecoming that much, and it seems like she's going to be in Far From Home more.
Yeah.
And we'll get to see a lot more of her, which I'm really looking forward to.
Well, then she posted that picture on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
Of her with her red hair and just that. What is that? Go get him, Tiger.
Looks good.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah,
looks awesome.
So enough Raimi negativity. We'll move on from that.
There'll be more to come.
I like the movies, which we'll talk about Spider-Man movies later.
There will be more negativity from me to come, but that's fine. Not a whole lot, but
yeah.
Anyways, so speaking of Far From Home, we finally had last week about Wednesday. They finally released some of their thoughts. Some people that were able to see it, they didn't.
First reactions,
things like that, and everything I have read has been overwhelmingly positive. Mm-hmm. I have never, I was excited to see this movie before, but after reading all this, my excitement went up I'm very excited. This became my most anticipated movie so far this year. From now on.
It's been mine since Endgame.
Yeah.
But with Marvel films, the first reactions are basically always universally positive, just about.
Yeah.
With Captain Marvel, with Endgame, with Black Panther, with Infinity War.
There was a lot of negativity with Captain Marvel, I think.
Not really in the first reactions. Most of the critics were really, really positive.
Yeah, I guess
in the very beginning, which I think it did have the most negative reactions out of those three.
Right.
But they're generally very, very positive, which I like to hear them. Don't get me wrong, but that's not something that's seals the deal,
Right.
Oh man, it's going to be amazing, which I do think it is going to be amazing. But
everything that they've said, because it's not, to an extent I agree, because it's sometimes it's the normal, this movie was funny and blah blah blah, action packed, blah blah whatever. But these have all they've said is you have to stay for the post credit scene.
A lot of people have mentioned
to stay
that,
for the post-credit scene,
which worries me because it doesn't actually worry me, but Ant-Man and the Wasp 2,
right?
A lot of people said you have to stay for the post-credits. That's because the whole movie was boring, as
crap,
whatever.
Yeah.
So, and you stay for the post-credits, and it's something just happened.
Right.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be the same case.
I truly think
that Far From Home is going to be better than that.
Yeah, we haven't seen this movie yet. I have seen nothing. I haven't seen any of the spoilers or anything like that. So
I have a lot of ideas of what the post-credit scene could be. I have one very predominant idea.
I do too.
That I think is going to happen.
That deals with 7 people.
And that makes a lot of sense with what people are saying. You have to stay for the post-credits and stuff.
But I think there's more than one.
There's 2. Everyone's saying both of them are great.
Yeah.
To both of them, they're saying this is the most important post-credit scene they've ever had. You can't miss it.
Which is going to set up probably a lot of stuff for the next phase.
Yeah.
It's going to set up
a lot of stuff. Which I'm super stoked for. But I'm stoked for the movie more than I am for the post-credit scene, obviously.
Yes.
I do think a lot of people are being super positive about the movie itself.
Yes.
Too.
I fully agree. I'm so excited to see this movie next week.
People are saying a lot of people have said it's better than Homecoming, which I love Homecoming.
Yep, so do
a lot of people have said one guy I saw said that it was his favorite live action Spider-Man movie ever.
Yeah.
Better than 2, better than 1, better than Homecoming.
I've seen that. So
I've seen that a couple times. So that's something that's really exciting to me because there's a lot of debate in that area. So to have another movie thrown in there between Spider-Verse 2 and Homecoming, there's a lot of debate.
Oh yeah. And I think it when it comes to that, it's personal preference.
It is. At least for me, 2 and Homecoming are essentially tied in my mind.
Yeah.
About 90% of the time.
Yeah. To me, which we'll get into this a little bit, but Into the Spider-Verse was so different.
Yeah.
And so out there, and it worked so well that it's almost hard to beat. It's almost impossible to beat. Mm-hmm. It's so fantastic done. So
it is.
Before we jump into that, we're very excited. Next week is all about Spider-Man. It's our day of Spider-Man, basically.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about our podcast next week is going to be our spoiler-free and filled review of Spider-Man Far From Home. The live stream next week may just be like a spoiler. Hey, let's come and talk about this movie. We'll just chat about it, and then we'll do some... we had something else we had planned for this as well. Oh, and then we're going to do Jackbox games next week, so be ready for that.
Or maybe the week after.
Or maybe
we'll
the
have
week
to see,
after.
because big movies are shifting the schedule.
Yes,
so
they are.
We'll
figure it out.
Yeah.
We look for our Twitter, Dorks Next Door. Take out the E. We're going to post on there what we're going to do, so look out for that. So what we're going to do now is we are going to rank our Spider-Man movies. We're taking 7 up. We're not doing, like, wasn't there a movie that came out, like, a long time ago, like in the 60s, 50s, 60s? Spider-Man movie.
There was the Japanese Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There was a Spider-Man movie that came out in like the 60s
that was
or something.
Trash.
So I've heard.
So we're not doing that one. That one is not in the list.
Right. We're starting with Spider-Man 2002.
Yes. We're starting with that one, and we are going up. So we're ranking the 7 Spider-Man movies that come out during that time. We're going to start with number 7 and work our way up, because that's what we like to do here.
Our lists aren't that different.
They're not. I'm actually changing one of mine, so that's fine. Actually, I think our lists are pretty much the same. So yeah. Anyways, oh no, go ahead. I'll let you start. I'll mess with this.
Well, it looks like you and me only have one thing different. But that's okay. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is at the bottom for both of us. Shouldn't really come as a surprise to anybody.
So bad.
It's really garbage. It really represents all of the problems with Sony Spider-Man. And, you know, what they're doing now with Spider-Man is basically the inverse of what they were doing wrong with Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Right.
In Amazing Spider-Man 2, one of the most iconically terrible scenes is when a guy walks down the hallway and you've got the Sinister Six gear in the entire hallway.
That was the post-credit scene, wasn't it?
It's just so stupid. You know, that's exactly the wrong way to build a universe.
It is.
Sony is really just like Warner Brothers. They have no idea how to be Marvel.
Yeah.
Only Marvel knows how to be Marvel.
Yeah.
Star Wars doesn't even know how to be Marvel.
No.
At least right now. So, wait, 1 sec. I do have something to say, which is kind of
What's up, Gump?
little bit of a tangent.
We are doing our best to or worst to best Spider-Man movies from 2000 on. So if you would like to throw yours in the chat, go ahead and do that.
I don't know how to say her name. Michelle Rejwan, Rejwan.
Yeah.
But she just got hired as kind of the Kevin Feige of Star Wars.
Good.
Which I am super excited for. She has a great track record as a producer.
Yeah.
My friend, who I actually play a Star Wars like kind of D&D RPG with, which I do Tuesday nights after we do the podcast, and I totally love it. It's a ton of fun. He is like the biggest Star Wars fan I know, really. He's super stoked about it, which, I mean, he knows way more than I do, so I guess I'm super stoked about it too. And I've wanted them to have a Kevin Feige kind of figure for a long time, because they've really needed it.
Yeah.
But all of that to say, yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is at the bottom. So many things wrong with it. And it's basically all the problems with Sony Spider-Man rolled into one big dumb movie. The only good thing about it is that they had the balls to do the Gwen Stacy death.
And that didn't even...
It didn't really work.
It didn't work.
I do appreciate them trying.
At least they went for it, you know.
Right.
To me... I'm trying to think how to say this. To me, Andrew Garfield plays a really good Spider-Man.
Yes.
Terrible Peter Parker.
Yeah, not very good.
Tobey Maguire plays a really good Peter Parker.
Not as
terrible
good as
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Tom Holland does both pretty well. So But like to me,
I'm a lot lighter on Andrew Garfield than most people. Honestly, a lot of people are just like, no, he's garbage. You know, he's terrible. Worst Spider-Man.
He's a really good witty Spider-Man.
I agree that he is the worst Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, I would too.
I still think he did a pretty solid job, and he's definitely not the problem with those movies.
No, he's not. But he doesn't help those movies either in a way.
Not particularly, no. Especially not with 2.
Right.
Yeah, so moving on from number 7, lowest on the list, to number 6, both of us have Spider-Man 3. And again, our lists are basically essentially the same, except for one little switcheroo. Spider-Man 3, you know, Everyone's seen it. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows what the problem is with it, and that's that
Too many people.
Venom is in it.
Oh, no, not just Venom. Not just Venom.
No, really, because the original plan for Spider-Man 3 was to do Sandman and to do Harry Osborn Green Goblin. And then the studio, and then the studio was like, we want Venom.
Oh, maybe Venom was the problem.
Yes. Yeah, Venom was straight up the problem because he had to rework the movie to accommodate Venom.
Yeah.
And then you had Sandman, Venom, and New Goblin.
Yep.
And so much just got lost in the mix. And it's really sad because if this had panned out, then it would have been maybe the best superhero trilogy of all time, in my opinion. We'd have to see on that. It depends on how good it would have been.
Yeah.
With Sam Raimi's original plans.
Yeah.
But yeah, Venom kind of tanked Spider-Man 3. Topher Grace was a terrible casting choice, obviously. Sandman was great. All the Sandman stuff was great.
Yeah.
A lot of the New Goblin stuff was a little bit weird, but if it would have been in the context of a better movie, then
it would have worked.
Yeah, it would have worked.
Yeah.
So there's a lot in Spider-Man 3 that does work, and a lot of the charm from the first two still carries over, but also a lot of terrible, poor decisions.
I will say, I do like the black Spider-Man suit.
Yeah,
that looked good.
Looks slick.
And the thing that the Amazing Spider-Mans have going for them is the suit looks awesome. In the Amazing Spider-Man movie, is it the first one or the second one?
So a lot of people like the second Amazing Spider-Man suit.
Yeah.
I like the first one because it's doing something. Let me pull them up for you.
Yeah. Because the second one's like a darker blue, isn't it?
No, that's the first one.
Okay, then I like the first one better.
Yeah, the first one... Here's both of them side by side. So the first one has a darker blue, and it's got darker, like, yellow eyes, kind of, and it's got a big spider symbol. The second one has really big Spider-Man eyes.
Yeah.
I like the first one better because it's doing something different.
Yeah.
It's doing something really different with the Spider-Man
I like the
suit.
first one better, too.
And, like, the blue comes up a little bit more to his shoulder.
Yeah.
But the second one is more classic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do dig the first one quite a bit.
But I do like the black symbiote Spider-Man suit.
Yeah, the black.
I do think it looks
black
really,
suit
really
looks cool.
But
the Far From Home suit,
looks
black
amazing.
suit, is my favorite live action.
So good.
Spider-Man
it looks
suit.
So good.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about when it comes out next week. So
that the black and red suit looks so slick.
It does.
It looks so good.
So number 7 for us was The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Number 6 is Spider-Man 3. Number 5 for both of us is The Amazing Spider-Man 1. Another failed attempt by Sony. I did not like this movie at all.
See, I like it. It's the same place on our list, but I do like it. It's not a great... Okay, so... This is kind of foreshadowing for me a little bit.
Right.
The best live-action Spider-Man movie is Spider-Man 2. And that's because it is a Spider-Man story through and through, comic book to movie. Mm-hmm. Both The Amazing Spider-Man and Spider-Man Homecoming, which I adore Homecoming, they're both kind of other movies work to be Spider-Man movies. And with Homecoming, it obviously works way better.
Yeah.
Homecoming is also an MCU movie through and through. It's also an MCU origin story through and through. It's one of the best ones. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I adore it. Amazing Spider-Man is a really kind of generic film in a lot of ways and kind of a generic monster movie at certain points, and it feels like just kind of like a generic blockbuster. But Spider-Man is there.
Spider-Man is there, yeah.
Yeah, but Spider-Man is the main character.
Yeah.
So in that sense... Amazing Spider-Man and Homecoming are both kind of similar because they're not just kind of like a classic Spider-Man movie because that's already been done to perfection.
Right.
So I think a lot about The Amazing Spider-Man works, but that's the biggest problem with it is that it's not really a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't feel like a Spider-Man movie and not necessarily in a good way like Homecoming sometimes.
See, to me, I don't know why, but like... So, like, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was just not good.
Garbage. Yeah.
Garbage. To me, Spider-Man 3 was garbage. It was okay. Like, the first half of the movie was good.
I'd say it's a 5 out of 10.
Anyways.
I'd say Amazing Spider-Man 2 is like a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I would say Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a 2 out of 10. Spider-Man 3 for me is like a 4. Maybe.
Amazing Spider-Man for me is like a strong 6.
Mine's like a 4.5. Like, I hate this movie. I hate this movie. One, to me, it's very forgettable. Very forgettable.
It is forgettable. That's a problem.
I don't know. Like, it's just it feels like. One, to me, Andrew Garfield is not that great of a choice for a Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man himself, yes. Peter Parker, no. And it didn't really work, especially with, like, the way that they were trying to portray him. Like, it did not really work. I did like the fact that we got Gwen Stacy instead of MJ. Like, I do really, really like that. And she was actually, I really didn't mind her in this movie. Did not mind her all that much in this movie. I liked her more than I liked Spider-Man in this movie.
I think what they tried to do with The Amazing Spider-Man is kind of slip. Wow, that was not the right word. Flip. Very close, very close.
A couple letters off.
Try to flip the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man on its head.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is not cool, and everybody knows that. That's kind of the point.
Right.
And it works.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is cool.
But that's not Spider-Man. You know what I mean?
And it is less Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And he's more kind of generic action star, but he is Spider-Man.
Which I have no problem with them trying to not necessarily rewrite, but like take a rework and do a different spin on a character.
Yeah.
I have no issue with that.
Because Homecoming is that.
Yeah. Homecoming
is like a John Hughes 80s movie crossed with MCU origin story.
Exactly. And it works. But to me, they changed Spider-Man's character so much that it was just weird. And it felt off. And it didn't feel... I don't know. It just didn't feel right.
I think up until Homecoming came out, I would agree with you on Amazing Spider-Man. I think I have more positive feelings on it after Homecoming. Yeah. With that being a successful rework of Spider-Man, and I'm like, you know what? The Andrew Garfield rework, it's still weird. It's not a Raimi movie. You know, it's not fantastic, but I liked it. I did enjoy it, and I can see why I liked it. And it's something that's different.
To me, I think it would have worked better if... I'm trying to think of how to say this. I think it would have worked better if you'd have had a character or an actor play this role specifically. If you'd have had somebody that would have been a little more relatable. Like I feel like, and I may be wrong in saying this, if you put Tom Holland right now in The Amazing Spider-Man, I think it would have been better. Because I think he could have done that version of Spidey that they wanted him to play. To me, Andrew Garfield was too much of a pretty boy trying to be a nerd. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it really didn't work. Like, with him playing that role. And it may just be me, and if it's just me, that's fine. I'm totally fine to admit that.
I couldn't really see Tom Holland in The Amazing Spider-Man.
I couldn't either, but I think it would have worked better. Like, to me, I think it would have worked better. Because I just don't see Andrew Garfield as being that type. That's why I think he's the worst. Like, to me, he's the worst Spider-Man. Because he's not that great. Like, the best thing he had for him was that he was good at being witty. And even his wittiness was like, yeah, that was not that great.
Yeah, I don't agree, but okay.
Wow,
that's good. We disagree. Yes,
we finally disagree.
We always have to call it out when we disagree on something.
Yeah,
in a big way. But yeah, like, we still have it at the same placement, so obviously we don't disagree that much.
And if it would, like, and it may have changed because I haven't seen this movie I haven't seen it since it came out in theaters. Only saw it one time in theaters.
Yeah.
It may change now by seeing it again, but still, like, it's just one of those things to me. Plus, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 may have burned me so bad that I hate one now. Just
and that's a big part of it too.
You know what I mean?
And I can't fault you that because that totally makes sense. I think that a lot of people look at the original Spider-Man trilogy, and see Spider-Man 3, and it just taints the memory of the first two.
Right. Which it doesn't for me because I didn't like him. No, I'm not saying that because I did like him. I did like the first two somewhat. Just not as much as everyone else. That's fine.
So,
moving on. Number 4 for you.
And for both of us is Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, the first one.
2002, Spider-Man. Again, comic book page to film. With all of its flaws, in all of its glory. Completely dorky, completely leans into that revolutionary movie for comic book movies.
Yep.
Absolute cornerstone of the industry. It's got a lot of flaws, and it is corny beyond really, I mean, all the superhero movies that were coming up back then were corny.
Yes.
But it's a charming corny. So many elements of this movie are just delightful. The cinematography, the music are just fantastic.
Yep.
And in a lot of ways, what they're doing with Spider-Man now doesn't really live up to a lot of those aspects.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's great what they're doing with Spider-Man now. But there is still something that's lost. And there are things that Tom Holland Spidey does better. There are things that MCU Spidey does better. There are things that Raimi Spidey does better. And the thing that I have always thought, and the thing that I always, try to say when talking about this, is that those two styles complement each other so well. The Raimi movies are such well-made movies.
Yeah.
They're such iconic pieces of cinema, iconic pieces in superhero movies. Tom Holland's Spider-Man is hilarious, and the dialogue is fantastic. It's such a well-thought-through world and a well-cast world. And it seems like with Far From Home, they're doing a lot better in the cinematography aspect and the film score aspect. So we'll get to see a lot of that. And it's just bleeding with character and with charm.
Yeah.
On the MCU side.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first Spider-Man has so much going for it. Even though, I mean, it in a lot of ways, it just completely doesn't hold up. And I think people, kind of put on nostalgia blinders a lot of the time.
Yeah.
With these first two Spider-Man movies. But, it is what it is. And there's still great movies and some of the greatest movies to come out from that time.
There is no doubt that this was a pivotal role in the superhero franchise. By far, this was a very massive win for the superhero franchise.
Totally. The biggest one up until, well, no, I can't say that because there was still Superman and Batman.
Yeah.
But other than those two,
it's the biggest Marvel win.
Yes, it was the biggest Marvel win up
by
until
far.
That point.
But
there was X-Men, but I'd say it wasn't even close to as successful and groundbreaking as Spider-Man was.
Yeah, I would say that. But so here's the thing. Here's my biggest issue with the first Spider-Man movie. I've gone on record to say I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. I wasn't the biggest fan of this movie when it came out. I'm not saying that it's not good. I think it's good, but it's just not necessarily my cup of tea, which is really weird coming from the guy that defended Aquaman, because
that is really weird.
Kind of got the same things.
You want to explain that?
Yes, because
explain that to Willem Dafoe.
I will explain that. No, because Willem Dafoe was my favorite part of that movie. Of
Aquaman?
No, of
I was like,
Sam
oh
Raimi's
God,
Spider-Man. No. Of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and that
your mother died a long time ago. You have to harness your power. What did you say?
You said
my mom died? That scene on the beach is just the best part of the whole movie.
Oh,
and you've got him with his Ray from the Force Awakens hair.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Lord have mercy. Anyways,
what a weird movie.
To me, the biggest issue with this movie, and it may just be me, and if it's just me, then I'll die on my sword here. That's fine. But I've said this several times. I'm not a huge Tobey Maguire fan. Never been a big Tobey Maguire fan, and that's fair. That's fine. To me, the best parts of the first two movies are the villains. To me, in Spider-Man 1, Green Goblin is my favorite part of that movie. Mm-hmm. He's so great. Obviously, Spider-Man 2, Doc Ock is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. So to me, the biggest problem, though, was, Spider-Man just wasn't very interesting to me. Him as a person. The character, Spider-Man as a whole, is very interesting to me, but he was not very interesting to me.
I will say that 2, in that regard, is leaps and bounds better.
Yes. Oh yeah, I would agree with
getting you
that.
Invested in the Spider-Man.
I would agree with
in
that.
The Spider-Man character.
Yeah.
It brings you into the world, and it tells a great, compelling story, great, compelling origin story. I'd say 2 is the one who just takes it to the next level.
1 did a really good job of building the world, building their world around them. 2 did a really good job of letting you explore that world and showing you all the depth of it and everything like that. But to me,
and Peter's a lot better in 2.
He is a lot better. It's just, I don't know, Spider-Man 1 to me was a really good movie. It was a good movie. I'm not going to say a really good movie. It was a good movie. Doesn't necessarily hold up all that well, going back and watching it, because I went back and watched it recently, and it was not as it was more cringy than I remember at times, especially the relationship between Peter and MJ. Like that was extremely cringy to me at times, and that part didn't really connect with me. Which I'm not saying that it has to be like you always have to have the romantic thing to click. That's not what I'm saying. It's just to me it did not really fit, and I don't know why. And it felt like. And don't get me wrong, I know it came out in, 2002? Is that what you said, 2002? It fits with that era perfectly. Like, it works with that era. It's just, I think rewatches have kind of dulled it a little bit in my mind, if that makes any sense. It has not held up. I'll say this, it has not held up especially as well as the second one. It's kind of fallen off a little bit for me. But
I can see that. But
it's still not, like, the worst movie in the world. Like, it's not even close. Like, I would watch this movie. This is one of those, like, if it's on, I will definitely watch it. But it's not one of those, like, hey, I'm going to watch this movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those for me, so.
I got you.
Anyways.
I would give this, like a, shoot.
See, I would give it.
Because like 7.5 or an 8.
I gave Spider-Man 3 a 4. Amazing Spider-Man a 4.5. I would give this one like a 6.5. Like a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll say an 8.
Okay. All right. And
Moving
then
on.
That was number 4.
That was number 4.
So number 3. Is it the same?
Oh, no. No, it's not.
Okay.
My number 3, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Okay.
And yours is Spider-Man 2.
2, yes.
So basically, we've got 2 and 3 flip-flopped on our list.
Yes.
For me, really, I love Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man Homecoming basically equally in a lot of regards, because where one movie totally excels, the other movie excels in a different way.
Right.
And where one movie kind of has its flaws, the other movie complements those flaws so well.
Right.
And I love that balance. No, like, few characters get that opportunity to have multiple different takes on the character in film, multiple different iconic takes on that character.
Right.
I think so many people take that for granted. And it's always about pitting the two against each other and throwing Andrew Garfield in there. And it's like we always have to be fighting about it. And It's so stupid.
Yeah.
And lame. So, that all to say, for now, Homecoming is number 3 for me. And I love it. It's one of my favorite MCU films. Absolutely. It's top tier MCU. One of their best origin stories. I'd say their second best origin story behind Iron Man.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So many great things about it. A great villain. Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man. And this movie really cements that.
Yep.
Kicking off from coming off the heels of Civil War. I love the fact that he was introduced in Civil War.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really ties him to this universe. The way that they tie Spider-Man into the MCU, especially in Homecoming, is brilliant.
Oh yeah.
And it's the most seamless kind of outlier.
It is.
From the Avengers franchise.
Yeah.
The most seamless tie-in so far. Yeah. And with Far From Home, it's going to become way more like that, totally. I think that the way that they not only integrate those characters, but rework characters like Ned, characters like MJ, Flash Thompson, the way that they take Spider-Man lore, kind of shift it into a more high school light.
Yeah.
Tell a different kind of story. I just love it.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant movie.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I'll get to that in a second.
And I think it's super well paced. There's always something that kind of catches your interest throughout the entire movie. The scene where he's lifting up the rubble is fantastic.
Yes.
The way that they performed that. I think the final fight is solid.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Homecoming, I love it. I love it. I love it. So many things positive I can say about it. So high for Far From Home, it looks like it could be even better. So.
What would you rate it out of 10?
Shoot. I'll say a 9. I'll say this and Spider-Man 2 are both at a 9.
Okay.
Because they're really, in a lot of regards, very,
close.
Very similar and very, very close. Well, not similar, but
right.
in a similar place for me.
Yeah.
And very, very close for me, but it's just fantastic.
See, number 2 for me, so like Spider-Man 2 which I haven't, which is like my third favorite Spider-Man movie. I actually really, really, really enjoyed this movie. Doc Ock is amazing in this movie as a villain. It does a really good job of like, especially as a kid. Like I remember the scene of like the doctors around the table with like the arms flying around. You just like scared the crap out of me as a kid. The bank scene with him is awesome. The train car scene is one of my favorite Spider-Man like shots of all time.
Epic.
And then the fight, like the final fight scene, is awesome. Like all of it just works really well. Tobey Maguire in this movie actually does a good job, which is surprising to me, I know, but he still does a really, really good job. So like to me, this movie did everything right, and it worked, and it still holds up, and it still works really well. And I really, really, really enjoyed this movie. So I would give Spider-Man 2 probably an 8 out of 10, like an 8 out of 10. Homecoming is awesome. Like it's so good. Tom Holland's a great Peter Parker and Spider-Man. The supporting cast in this movie is amazing. Is absolutely amazing. Ned is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. Vulture is an absolutely fantastic villain. It does a really great job of like throwing more, because like that's one of the things that I really did like about like the first Spider-Man movies, were them throwing a lot of stuff on Peter, like constantly him throwing, like Sam Raimi throwing stuff on Peter more and more and more. This happened to Tom Holland in this movie, of like he went from like getting the cool suit to losing the cool suit to finding out that the girl he really likes, Dad, is the one that's been trying to kill him all along. Like it's just more stuff being thrown on top of him, and like to me it works really, really well. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite MCU movies. Definitely like a 9 out of 10. I think I would give this one a 9 out of 10 for sure.
I forgot to even mention Tony Stark, and his relationship with Spider-Man is fantastic. The way that they show that, the dialogue that they have is so good. And also Marisa Tomei as Aunt May is a great casting choice. Again, I think they nailed the casting choices for all of the supporting cast, for all of like Spider-Man's world around him. Yeah, just kind of like shifts the lens a little bit, which I think is so sweet, because we've already had 2 Spider-Man franchises in film. Yep. Sam Raimi and Amazing Spider-Man. So to kind of like flip that around and look at it in a different way, totally love it. Oh, yeah. Spider-Man 2, number 2 for me. One of my favorite movies of all time, one of the best superhero movies of all time. So it flows just brilliantly. The cinematography is fantastic. The fight choreography is amazing. The music is beautiful. Doc Ock is a fantastic villain. Again, Tobey Maguire. I'm not like a super fan or anything. I think he's solid in this movie, and there's just so much to love and to become attached to. And if Spider-Man was just a standalone movie in 2002, I don't think I would remember it as fondly without the context of Spider-Man 2. Right. And the way that they really improved upon every single aspect in this movie. Oh, yeah. But it's just great, and there's so much to love about it. Oh, yeah. And really, again, 2 and Homecoming hold an equal place in my heart. I cannot emphasize that enough, and I love how they complement each other. Oh, yeah. So do I. And then that makes number 1 for both of us the newest Spider-Man movie. Yeah. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Perfect film. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Perfect. The animation in this movie is different, and it's amazing. It looks like a comic book has come to life, and it's perfect. Even more than that. Yeah. Miles Morales is awesome. Like, all the different Spider-Mans are great. The villains in this are great. Kingpin is so comic booky, like big in this movie, that it works. It's perfect. The humor in this movie is amazing. Everything about this movie is just so good. It's so good. It's so perfect. It's definitely become my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. Like it's very hard to beat. It's going to be very, very hard to beat this movie. It took me seeing it again to rank it above Spider-Man 2. Yeah. Which I saw it again with Victoria. Yeah. At home. We rented it on, I think it's coming to Netflix soon, but we rented it on Redbox. And yeah, it's just absolutely brilliant. Phil Lord and Chris Miller are untouchable. just some of the best pop culture directors out there.
Yeah.
If they did I've said this before, if they did the Fantastic Four film in the MCU, it would be the best MCU movie ever made. I would love that so much. But yeah, and I'm so glad that we have this really like unifying film.
Yes.
That everyone can just pretty much universally agree.
Yeah.
This is the best.
This is
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Because it is.
It is. It is absolutely amazing.
Every aspect of it is brilliant.
Yeah. It is.
So, yeah. I mean, we've already talked about that quite a bit, and it's definitely been talked to death on the internet in a way.
But it's perfect.
But it is. I mean, and it absolutely deserves it because not since the Lego movie has an animated movie, Phil Lord and Chris Miller
That's very
again,
true. That's very true.
Has an animated movie blown me away.
That's very true.
So much.
It's so good. So good. I need to watch it again.
Toy Story 4, topical. I mean, I loved that too.
Yeah.
Wasn't a Spider-Verse, but it was amazing
Speaking
as well.
of Spider-Man 4. Wow. That's not coming. That's not happening. Spider-Man 4 is not happening.
Yeah.
Toy Story 4. That's what you said. Toy Story 4. We are also going to do our worst to best Pixar movies.
Yes.
Now, I don't think we're going to go in depth in each movie because there's 21 movies. And most of them are good. Most of them are actually really good.
Yeah.
Some of them are just like meh, and then there are a couple that are like meh. Like they're in that range. So do you want to just give our entire list and then talk about the ones, or do you just want to go one by piece by piece?
Let's go movie by movie.
Movie by movie.
I don't know how much value there would be in doing the whole list at once.
That's true.
That's
true. So with number 21.
Out of 21,
the worst Pixar movie.
We're very quickly shifting gears from Spider-Man into Pixar.
Yes, we are, because I think we're going to talk a lot of Spider-Man.
But we came in with this idea because Far From Home is coming out next week.
Yes,
and we just saw Toy Story 4.
Yeah,
a few hours
ago. And then we're going to talk a lot of Spider-Man next week. Lot of Spider-Man next week. Number 21 for me for the Pixar worst to best is Cars 2. This movie sucks.
Me too. Yeah.
This movie is not good at all. There's not a whole lot to say about it. This was the perfect example of, hey, the first one worked. Let's make a second one to make some money.
Right.
And that's that. That's all that really happened with that one.
They went into left field, and it was pretty weird.
It was so weird. It didn't even fit. It didn't even work. I don't know what they were trying to do, but it did not work at all. Number 20 for me is The Good Dinosaur, another movie that absolutely sucked, apparently. I didn't watch it, actually, so I'm not even pretend I watched it.
That's the only one that me and you haven't seen, but we've seen all the other ones.
I've heard that it's trash.
So we'll skip it. I like how we rank Cars 2 below that, even though
we haven't seen The Good Dinosaur yet.
Yeah. Still, Cars 2 is a 5 out of 10. It's not
it's not the worst thing in the world, but
right.
It's not the best thing in the world either.
So,
number 19 for me is Monsters University.
Me too.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah,
it's all right.
It's not bad. I
didn't need it. That's the main issue with a lot of these. Is I didn't need it.
I'll get more into that later.
Yeah. Number 18 for me is Cars 3.
Number 18 for me is Brave.
Oh, you hate that the Brave. Don't hate on the Brave.
Yeah.
That's the only word I
really
can say in
a
Scottish accent is Brave.
Nice.
Brave.
But Mom, it's just me, Bo.
I'll be fighting for my own hand.
Yeah.
Number 17 for me is Finding Dory. Didn't need it. It was all right, but did not really need it. Mm-hmm. It was all right.
Yeah. For me, it's Cars 3. Cars 3 is fine.
It's just fine. That's basically all. There's nothing else to really say.
We're going through this really quick. We're going movie by movie.
This one's controversial, though.
I think Cars 3 is pretty likable.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
But, it's fine. Well, back when the trailer came out, this is funny. Back when the trailer came out, you remember the trailer, the first one, where it had, just Lightning McQueen just crashing and he's flipping through the air. Me and my brother edited a trailer and put it on Facebook. So we put in, as he's going, he says, "Ka-chow," really slowly, and then it plays Life is a Highway, and then we did a bunch of credits right after that. And that was our first kind of delve into any sort of video editing.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. But it was our first like actual attempt to make something actually like funny.
Yeah.
And it turned out pretty well. Like the way I'm describing it isn't as funny as it actually is, because when you describe like a internet video, it's not as funny.
Exactly.
But that was
funny.
It made me laugh. So, whatever.
Number 16 for me might be a little controversial.
Oh, God.
Number 16 for me is WALL-E. Not a huge fan of this movie.
How?
My favorite part of this movie was the first hour when nobody was talking.
I cannot even believe that.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this movie. It was not for me. Not a huge fan.
Well, we can talk more about WALL-E later, but I'm like, you are tripping.
I'm not tripping.
Yes.
I'm not tripping. No, I get the message they were telling, and it was a good message, and I liked it, and I appreciate it. Did not like the movie at all. What about you, number 16?
Finding Dory.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fine. It's probably their best sequel from kind of like the sequel stretch.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'll get more into that sequel stretch a little bit later. Oh, wait a minute. You know what I do not have on my list at all, for some reason, is Incredibles 2. So I have to kind of amend really quickly.
You're putting it that low?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm putting it right above Cars 3. So my actual number 16 is Incredibles 2. Incredibles 2, which I can talk about for a little bit.
Wow. Wait. Incredibles 2.
You put WALL-E number 16.
Yeah, but it's the
Okay. No, I know it's the Incredibles. You can't. I mean,
no. I know. Okay. I'll get to it when I get to it. Go ahead.
Yeah, Incredibles 2 was one of the biggest letdowns for me in cinema history, and that's not because it's absolutely like complete garbage. It's just fine. Which is really, really sad to me, because The Incredibles is a cornerstone movie of my life. Like, I've loved it ever since I was a kid. I still absolutely adore it. It's my favorite animated movie of all time. It just barely beats out like Prince of Egypt for my favorite animated movie of all time. It's probably my second favorite movie of all time, still at 20 years old. And I expected, if they were going to make an incredible sequel, that they had to have a fantastic idea going into it. And it's obvious that no, they didn't. Which, it's not the worst thing of all time. And people, it's a fun romp for kids. It doesn't have any of the themes. It doesn't have any of the undertones, as you would say as a film critic. It doesn't have really any of the weight at all that the first one did. Mm-hmm. All of the elements are just kind of like a little bit lesser from a filmmaking standpoint, except for the animation. The animation is wonderful, and a lot of the characters just kind of turn one-dimensional in a sense. And it really, what Incredibles 2 is a movie that I feel like they decided they were going to make, and so they just made it. They didn't go in with a great idea. They just said, let's make another movie about the Incredibles. Yeah. They didn't think too much about it. They just put it out there. And so it was a pretty big disappointment, even though it's not, it's not garbage by any stretch, but... Yeah, a very big letdown for me. And really, I mean, I dislike Incredibles 2 for the reasons that I love the first one.
Okay, that makes sense. I know what you're saying.
I love the first one, so it's just kind of like a much, much lesser take on the first one. I don't know. Yeah, and I'm struggling to kind of like describe my feelings about it, but... Yeah, not a fan of Incredibles 2.
Wow, and you gave me crap for hating WALL-E.
It's still like a 6 out of 10. It's not bad, but go ahead. Take it away. I need to stop talking about that.
Number 15 for me is Brave. It's just all right.
Okay.
It's just, yeah.
I see in the chat, you prefer Finding Dory over Incredibles 2. Yeah, I do. I do. I legitimately do. I think Finding Dory was made with more intent than Incredibles 2. And there's just a lot that isn't there It just straight up isn't there. So, take it away.
Number 15 for me was Brave.
Okay.
I'd be fighting for my own hand. That's about it. That's all I really remember.
Yeah.
Not a huge fan.
It's just me boo.
It's alright. It's just alright.
Yeah, and for me, it's Finding Dory.
Our word of the day. It's just fun.
Yeah.
It's just fun. Number 15 for you is Finding Dory?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 14 for me is Cars. The first one. It's good. Like, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Cars. It's just, it's not necessarily for me. Like, it was just, it's alright. Like, it was funny. I liked the story they were telling. The animation looked great. It was just alright though. Like, it wasn't the biggest thing to me.
Yeah, I'll talk about Cars a little bit more when I get up to it, because I have some pretty complex feelings on Cars as well. But yeah, for me, it's A Bug's Life, which is the only one of their like kind of classics that isn't like
Killer.
amazing.
Yeah.
There's still a whole lot to like.
Yeah.
About A Bug's Life.
I'm a beautiful butterfly.
Exactly.
Yep.
I still do really like it. I still think it's pretty iconic out of that like older crop of movies.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Number 13 for me is Incredibles 2.
Okay.
But I really liked it.
Not too far off from
Not
where
too
I had
far,
it.
but I really liked it. I liked it better than most of the other ones. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. One of my favorite scenes of all time has to be Jack versus the raccoon. It's absolutely amazing. It's hilarious. And yeah, I really enjoy it. I love it. Incredibles 2.
I'm struggling to think of a scene that I really...
You didn't like Jack
the first,
versus raccoon?
No. I like the first screensaver fight.
You have no heart. You literally have no heart.
So one of my big problems... Let's go back to Incredibles 2. One of my big problems with Incredibles 2 is that a lot of the... first of all, a lot of the subtlety is completely missing. Mm-hmm. And the first Incredibles had so much subtle humor and subtle storytelling and subtle character development. It was amazing. And it still amazes me at 20 years old, and it probably still will when I'm 40. I don't know. This movie is just going to like haunt me with how amazing it is every time I watch it. But the second one has none of that subtlety. I'm also not a big fan. This is just me personally. And this is just because... whatever. This is just my personality. It has nothing against anybody who likes it or anything. I don't care for, cute baby is funny because baby is funny and he has superpowers and it's funny. I didn't dislike the scene. I don't have a huge issue with it. I don't care about it. Like when I'm watching, I don't care about it. I think Jack was used really well in the first Incredibles because he was used really sparingly. In the second one, he's just like, always there, and he's like the entire he solves the plot at the end of the movie, really.
Yeah, but
in a lot of ways
it's still funny, man. Like
no, and I mean the Jack attack kind of like short that they made,
that was great.
I really did enjoy that.
But
that's because it was made with the intent of being about him. And in the first one, he was used sparingly, and then when Syndrome is flying up to the plane with him, then he's like turning into a bunch of different things and going crazy, and everyone on the ground is like, what is going on up there? That was great. But yeah, I didn't care for Jack and Incredibles 2, so I need to stop talking about this movie because I'm gonna make everybody mad. I'm gonna be judged. You're being That's okay.
Judged. This is almost as bad as me not watching Harry Potter.
No, it's not.
This is ask Gump. This is almost as bad.
Well. No.
He said fake news.
Gump knows what the real problem is, and that's Andy not watching Harry
Potter. No, the real problem is that you hate a baby that has superpowers.
I don't hate the raccoon fight. I don't like it, but I don't hate it.
I'm so happy to be on this end of it for
whatever. Once. Yeah, sure.
I'm
sure you are.
I have Wall-E 16, so it's okay. Number 12 for me.
Not okay.
Did you give your 13?
That's way more criminal.
Did you give your 13? You did, I think.
No.
What was it?
It's Coco.
Oh.
I've got Coco at number 13. Really, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that low. I know you have it a lot higher.
Yeah.
I like Coco. It's pretty good. It's one of their best movies in a long time. Yeah. One of Pixar's best movies in a long time. And there are things that stick with me from it. It suffers from a lot of the problems that their recent movies have, which is like... a twist villain with no intrigue.
Yeah.
And like some really weird stuff within the plot, but it's beautifully animated. The story that they tell, the main character is really easy to root for. The story that they tell is beautiful and really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's got a lot of the charm of classic Pixar, but it's not quite at that level.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I get that. Number 12 for me is...
For me, not quite at that level.
Yeah. Number 12 for me is A Bug's Life. It's a good classic, but it's like probably the worst of the classics. Yeah. And it's not even that bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's very entertaining. I love it. I really enjoy it. It's one of those that, like, you can just throw back on and watch and it'll be fine. So yeah, number 12 for me is A Bug's Life.
Okay. Number 12 for me is Cars. I'm putting Cars above Coco. And that's because of a lot of different reasons.
Before we even started, you're like, is it a criminal act to put Coco below Cars?
Right. Am I going to go for jail?
I said not necessarily, but you might. There's a chance that you might.
Right.
That's a good point, Gump. You did put Guardians 2 last, so you have no room to talk.
So, moving on from that, yeah, I'm putting Cars above Coco. I really do like Cars. I think a lot of people crap on it because it's easy to crap on.
It is.
And it came at a time when it was surrounded by Up and Wall-E in the future and Incredibles like right directly before it. It's piggybacked by incredible movies.
Yeah.
And it's not incredible movies. It's piggybacked, it's surrounded, it's bookended by like pillars of Pixar animation.
It's
like
kind of
Finding Nemo and
it's kind of like the Ant-Man and the Wasp of like it got put in a really bad spot.
Sort of,
but it's not that bad.
Definitely better than Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah. It is.
It's still got a ton of charm to it. It's got a ton of heart.
Yeah.
All of their ideas from that time were original.
Yeah.
I think that Talking Cars isn't like the smartest idea they've ever had, but like the kind of like Old Town twist that they put on it,
it worked.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I really like kind of like the atmosphere and the charm of Radiator Springs. I think it totally works. It's got a beautiful soundtrack. The whole movie does.
Yeah. Even Life is a Highway.
Yeah, sure. Sure. But yeah, I think it's solid.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's solid. It is easy to crap on.
Yeah, it is.
When it's bookended by such great films, but
it's not bad.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
So
it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
Number 11 for me is Up. This movie made me cry. It really did. Like the first 5 minutes of this movie actually made me tear up and cry. It's a really sad movie. I really enjoy it though. Kevin's the bird.
Kevin is the bird.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Apparently Kevin's a girl.
Oh.
And then what was Doug? Doug was the dog.
Yeah.
So you have Kevin and Doug. They were great. Carl was the old man.
Mm-hmm.
And then the kid's name was?
Russell.
Russell. Yep. All of them are great. Like I really. It's a weird movie. The premise of it and the plot sounds super weird, out of context. But watching it, it's really good. Like it's really, really, really good. So yeah, I have Up at number 11 for sure. It's almost in my top 10. It would have been in my top 10 if something else didn't come out. But yeah, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I got you. All makes sense. My number 11 is Inside Out. Another one of their really great recent movies, like Coco. Yep. I don't know. I think it's a really great premise. Got an incredible soundtrack, just like usual. The vocal performances are wonderful, and they especially stand out here. It's a wonderful world that we get to explore, and a really emotional movie, of course. So yeah, a lot of people have already said plenty of good things about Inside Out, but it's definitely a hit.
It is.
For Pixar.
It is, definitely. Number 10.
And one of their classics. It stands like among their classic Pixar movies.
Yes, definitely.
I'd say Cars is the top of that not quite classic tier. And then Inside Out is the beginning of the classic tier for me.
Yeah. Number 10 for me is the brand new Toy Story 4.
Mm-hmm.
Love this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. It's the worst one of the Toy Story franchise.
Worst is a difficult word to use.
What's the word? It is the...
Least best.
It's not my favorite. It's probably my least favorite Toys Story movie, but that doesn't take anything away from it. It's great. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. We're not going to give anything away here. Just definitely go check it out. Go watch it. Toy Story 4 in my top 10 for sure. It's so good. Check it out.
Number 10 for me is Up. Again, like I said, very strange movie. Very sweet.
So is Inside Out.
Yeah, but Inside Out, then again, it also takes place in a fantastical world.
Inside Out is the best movie to show kids, like, hey, you know why you're sad? Watch this movie. Like, here's your emotions. Like, it's perfect. It works so well.
Yeah.
It works so well. Anyways, go ahead with your... I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. Up is a very strange movie, and it's a very sad movie.
It is.
And it's a very emotional movie, but it's also one of their classics. It's one of the pillars of Pixar, especially in like the later 2000s. And there's a lot of great and memorable stuff from it, and the music is brilliant. I say that with like every Pixar movie.
They do a good job,
but it is. They really do. So, yeah, Up is great, and the characters are something that really stands out from Up too. A lot of the characters are so memorable.
Yep. Number 9 for me is Ratatouille. It's a great movie. It's absolutely a really good movie. Actually, in France, did you know that in France, when you go to Disney, the first person you're greeted by and meet isn't Mickey, but it's Remy from Ratatouille. And so like that's so cool that like this movie has had that much of an impact. Like that's so cool. So yeah, Ratatouille is one of my favorite. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but it's still one of my favorites. It's a really, really, really good movie. So yeah, Ratatouille is number 9 on my list.
Very nice. For me, Toy Story 4 is number 9. And this is where I'll talk about where we are with Pixar right now. Toy Story 4 is my favorite Pixar movie since Toy Story 3, which came out in 2010. Okay.
Just keep talking.
Okay.
I heard you talk about this once.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So Toy Story 4 is my favorite Pixar movie since Toy Story 3. And really they were kind of in a really awkward stretch for a long time there, where they were pretty much just making sequel after sequel to classic movies, and it was just kind of like, that was all right. It was sort of, the age of passable sequels. Incredibles 2, Finding Dory, Monsters University. And then, like, the classic films that they came out with, Inside Out and Coco, they were great. They were fantastic. They're not quite at the height that they were in the early 2000s, or really through the entire 2000s, because Up and WALL-E were kind of later on there. Toy Story 4 is just brilliant. And I think that for a lot of people, the question was, does this movie deserve to exist? Because you already have the Toy Story trilogy. 1, 2, and 3 are some of the greatest films ever made. They're definitely some of the greatest animated films ever made. And I think for me, Toy Story 4 totally sold itself. It totally warranted its own existence. And I don't know, there's so much that's sticking with me a couple hours after getting out of the theater. I think especially the way that they ended it all was very, very resonant to me, because it's a bittersweet ending. It's very smart. And the best Pixar movies are movies that can be enjoyed by not only kids, but adults as well. Incredibles, WALL-E, all the Toy Story movies, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo are all very intelligent, well thought through movies that can be enjoyed by both kids and adults. And that's absolutely what Toy Story 4 is. Definitely a home run. I mean, I think it stands just shy of the heights that they already were. And I think it deserves to exist, and it's one of my favorite movies of the year so far.
So far. That was number 9.
There we are. Yes.
Number 8, Inside Out for me. One of my favorite Pixar movies of all time. So good. It's really good. Like you said, the voice acting in it is amazing. The animation is beautiful. The concept is absolutely brilliant. Like, it's so smart. So yeah, everything about it is so good. Like, it's definitely in my top 10. So yeah, Inside Out is definitely up there. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it already. It's so good. So yeah, it's number 8 for me.
Number 8 for me is Ratatouille. A super funny movie, directed by the same guy who was directed by the same guy who directed The Incredibles, Brad Bird, one of my favorite directors living, and another guy who, if they got to do MCU Fantastic Four, I would be so on board for, because he's also done some Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah.
At least one, I think. But yeah, Ratatouille, such a funny movie.
Yep.
And one of the kind of like less recognized out of the top Pixar crop, but one that everybody should have seen by now
really
for sure.
Is. It really is. Number 7 for me is Toy Story 3. I love it. It's really good. It came like what? Toy Story 2 came out. So Toy Story 1 came out in 95.
2 was 99.
99. 3 came out in 2010.
Yeah.
So this was quick math. Like this came out like 10 years after? 10, 11. Yeah, so it came out like 11 years after the second one. Everyone thought it was going to fail. Everyone thought it wasn't going to be that great. And it blew everyone away.
Yeah.
The saddest, almost one of the saddest endings to a kid's movie I've ever seen in my entire life. It had me in tears. Like I was fighting back tears in this one. It's such a good story. It's such a good movie. It adds just another layer to the Toy Story franchise. And it's so great. Like I absolutely love it. Toy Story 3 is very hard to beat. It's so good. There's not a whole lot to say about it. Like it's really, really good. It's a different style of animation, and it looks amazing. The story behind it is great. All of it. It's definitely a home run. Definitely a home run.
Something about the Toy Story franchise and something that makes it so iconic and fantastic is that each installment catalogs a new era of animation.
Yeah.
So the first one, the first major computer animated film. And then Toy Story 2, a big leap in animation 4 years later, all the way up to Toy Story 3, 2010, a huge leap in animation. And then the animation for Toy Story 4 was like blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Like it was absolutely amazing. And it's really cool that we have like this legacy series to where 4 fantastic iconic films catalog, the history of computer animation.
Yeah.
Really, really well.
Oh, yeah.
And then also, I like how with each movie, I mentioned this to you, they add on characters and they add on, the lore very intentionally. Yeah. So now the cast of characters is so big. Because now you've got characters from the first one, you've got characters who were added in the second, characters who were added in the third, and then now you've got characters a new part of the cast for 4. Yeah. Which is really sweet.
Yo, what's up, Nico?
So
you're saying when Toy Thanos shows up, he's in trouble.
Right.
We're gonna get another
Well, they already did have a big purple villain.
Oh yeah, they did.
In 3, so kind of missed that opportunity.
It sucks.
So, we got number 7 for you.
It's not talking about. Whoa! It's not neglected. It isn't.
What?
Go ahead.
Oh. Well, we're talking about you, number 7.
I thought I just did.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, number 7 for me is Monsters, Inc. Yes. One of the classics, one of the cornerstones of Pixar for sure. What a cool world. I love Mike Wazowski. One of my favorite Pixar characters ever. Just so funny. And they inject charm into this world where there really should be no charm whatsoever. Yeah. I love so many of the character designs. And one of their emotional movies for sure. The music is great. The voice acting is great. Cornerstone of Pixar. Not a whole lot to say other than that, I think.
Yeah.
So.
That was number 7. Number 6, Coco. I love this movie. I absolutely love this movie. It doesn't hit as hard at home for me because I'm not from that descent, but it's still awesome to see. Like it's still really awesome to see. It looks so cool. Like it's just everything about it is so cool. The design of it, the animation of it's beautiful. The story told is absolutely amazing. Everything about it is just wonderful. And I don't know anything else to say about it. It's just it looks, and it is a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Because all it talks about is like the importance of family, things like that. It's so awesome to see. It's such a good movie. Check it out, for sure. So like number 6 for me is Coco.
Number 6 for me is Finding Nemo. Again, such a beautiful, beautiful world to be put into, and the animations that they have for the fish and especially the water.
Yes,
in 2003,
awesome.
In 2003, to make water look that amazing.
Yeah.
When you go into the special features and they talk about their process for how they animated that entire movie, you're just like, oh my gosh, like these guys are untouchable. The music is sublime.
Yeah.
For this movie, I love it so much. The first day of school track, and so many different tracks I can just have playing in my head. You
guys made me eat.
Yeah, so many great lines. And Marlon and Dory are such a fantastic pair to be put together. And a lot of the Pixar movies are built off of really like odd pairings.
Yes.
Of different people. Monsters Inc. has a great pair.
Up has a really weird pairing.
Yeah, and then Toy Story. With Woody and Buzz.
Yep.
You know, so much of it is about
and Ratatouille.
and Ratatouille.
Rat and a human.
Right. Wall-E.
Well,
Really all of them, honestly. Coco, you know.
Bug's Life doesn't.
Bug's Life doesn't. That's a problem with Bug's Life. But yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah, that is the problem with Bug's Life. But yeah, Finding Nemo is absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous movie, and it's one of the biggest movies from my childhood.
It is.
So.
Number 5 for me is Toy Story 2. I love this movie. I absolutely love this movie. It has one of the most satisfying scenes of all time, with Woody being cleaned, like his eyeball being cleaned, everything like that. Love it. I love that like the main villain is like a owner, like a toy shop owner, because that would make a lot of sense. I love the scene with the toy store, like going through everything. I love that. Basically, everything about this movie is just fantastic. The animation is great. It looks awesome. It's one of those movies as a kid I just watched over and over and over again. So yeah, Toy Story 2 for me is number 5.
Very nice. Number 5 for me is Toy Story 3, which again we've already talked about. It is just fantastic. Fantastic to return to form, and really the closing of the chapter for Pixar's greatest hits run.
Yeah.
Because right after that you have Cars 2, and then everything, you know. So you had Cars 2, and then really the only home runs that they've hit after that have been Inside Out, Coco, and Toy Story 4.
Yeah.
And they've come out with like 8 movies or something since Cars 2.
Something like that, yeah.
Well, probably not that many, but whatever. Yeah, so after that, things got a little bit wobbly, but Toy Story 3 was their last
big one.
Home run for that era. Totally. And it's amazing.
Yep. Number 4 for me is Finding Nemo. We kind of already talked about that a little bit, but yeah, Finding Nemo is great for me. I love it. It tells a beautiful story. It also has one of the saddest openings of all time.
Yeah.
In a kids movie. Just everything about it, though, is really great, fantastic. I love it. It's one of those ones that I've gone back and watched several times. Like you said, the soundtrack is something that sticks with me, which is awesome. So yeah, Finding Nemo is number 4 for me.
And like I said, so many of the best Pixar movies are very, and they're also very cerebral.
Yes.
They're very, very smartly put together so that adults can enjoy them too.
Yep.
And for Finding Nemo, that intelligence goes into the world.
Yes.
For so much of it, assembling this beautiful underwater world.
Yeah.
Is how this movie was just so smartly put together. So that's the big emphasis for Finding Nemo. Number 4 for me is Toy Story 2. This is the most nostalgic Toy Story for me by far. I really, really love it. Again, it's very smart. All of the Toy Stories are amazing. And it, like I told you before, it instilled in me a love for going to the airport. Because the way the airport was presented in there was
perfect.
really cool to me.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
it stuck with me for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
The villain was great. Al's Toy Barn was delightful.
Zurg being
the new
Buzz's
character,
dad was
yeah.
great. Was
Oh
awesome.
yeah, the new character additions that they had, but it's a sequel that's just as strong as the first, and that's kind of hard to come by.
It is.
Especially for Pixar, apparently.
Yes, Pixar struggles with sequels. Number 3 for me is Monsters, Inc. I love this movie. Mm-hmm. It's one of those ones, like these 4 movies, the top 4 movies are movies that I've gone back and watched so many times. Mm-hmm. Like, so many times. Mike Wazowski is one of my favorite characters. Sully is one of my favorite characters. It's just everything about it works so well, and it's perfect, and it's a different story, and it's awesome, and it just everything about it works, and I love it. And so yeah, it's number 3 on my list.
And Randall is great. He's a great villain.
Randall. He's more out of nowhere than an RKO.
Right.
Do you know what that is?
I do.
Oh,
I do because of memes.
Memes,
not because of actual wrestling. Number 3 for me is WALL-E. So just for a refresher, Andy had WALL-E 16th out of 21 on his list, and I have it number 3. So obviously I know what I'm talking about because WALL-E is utterly brilliant.
You had Incredibles.
Probably, other than Incredibles, probably the most cerebral, intelligent adult story that they've put together. The entire first hour of the movie is absolutely gorgeous. After that, it's not quite as good, but it's still absolutely brilliantly put together. It's almost a seamless story. The music is brilliant. I feel like I keep saying the same things over and over again, but really these movies excel in every... all of these Pixar classics excel in every way.
Yeah.
They really, really do. So, yeah. Really not that much to say about WALL-E. It's really the last Pixar classic that you have before Toy Story 3. And it's absolutely beautiful.
It is.
The kind of post-apocalypse that you have on Earth, I think, is beautiful. The stuff that you have in space is beautiful. The commentary in the movie. There's a lot of obvious commentary in the movie that children will pick up on. There's a lot of subtle commentary in the movie that adults will pick up on.
Yeah.
And it really can be enjoyed by anybody. So it definitely deserves that number 3 spot.
No, it doesn't. Number 2 for me is The Incredibles. Mm-hmm. Love this movie. It's everything I want and more, but I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's number 1 for you, so I'll leave it for you to kind of dive into. But I really enjoyed this movie, so The Incredibles is number 2. It's one of the ones I've gone back and watched, probably the second most out of any of these, and it gets better and better every time I watch it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Incredibles.
Number 2 for me is Toy Story, the first one. And again, I'll kind of let you go ahead and cover Toy Story, but it's one of the best movies of all time. One of the best movies of the 90s.
Yes.
The style of animated film came out so strong right out of the gate, and it gave birth to this franchise or this series of films that all 4 of them have been utterly fantastic and really unmatched. Yeah. It's really the defining series of animation, and it came out so strong right out of the gate with the first one.
Yes.
So
yeah, no, I have Toy Story number 1 because to me it is so perfect because the story behind it is amazing. Everything about it, the animation style is wonderful for its time. The mutant toys put together.
The character designs are so cool.
They're so cool, but they're so creepy as a kid.
Not Sid's dog. Sid's dog was not very cool. But
for that time, Sid's
cool.
dog for that time looked aight.
Yeah, okay.
The cat in Toy Story 4
I like how we've come from Sid's dog in Toy Story to the cat in Toy Story 4, which is just a real cat.
It's a real cat. You cannot tell me different. It is a real cat. It has to be a real cat.
And that's what I'm talking about is Toy Story is the legacy series that defines animation.
Yes.
And with each movie, huge advancements in the technology that are perfectly capitalized upon.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable.
It is.
It's totally remarkable.
If you look at the difference between Toy Story 1 and 4 and just look at the progression of the animation, it's beautiful to look at. But Toy Story to me is is wonderful. Like, everything about it is perfect. I love the story behind it. As a kid, like, this was my go-to movie. This was my go-to movie to watch. It's probably my top 5 favorite movie of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect. It's wonderful. I love every second of it. And yeah, there's not a whole lot to talk about. It's just it's wonderful. Like, it's wonderful. It's beautifully done. Everything about it is great. Toy Story is by far my favorite Pixar movie of all time, and I don't think anything's going to beat it. It's going to take a lot to beat it, but it's definitely my favorite of all time.
We're not aiming for the truck. Yes.
By the way, I want to go to Pizza Planet one day.
Are you?
I want to. I want to go to Pizza Planet so bad.
Nice.
It looks good.
Don't they have a Pizza Planet in
I think so.
In Disneyland
I
or
think
World?
So. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll get into my number one, which is The Incredibles, which, as I already touched on in my little Incredibles 2 TED Talk, The Incredibles is a cornerstone film of just my life.
Yeah.
I've seen it probably more times than any other movie, and I love everything about it. It's a perfect film for me. It's really the film where I judge other films by. It's just the absolute top tier, highest, most amazing thing ever to me. Yeah, the music, like every single part of the soundtrack is amazing.
Yeah.
By Michael Giacchino, who's like the John Williams of our time, pretty much.
Yeah.
And, you know, the amount of character that comes through, the amount of subtlety in every aspect, which I've touched on a lot in this episode. The subtlety in the character development, the subtlety in the commentary that it makes, and the family, you know, the family dynamic that they have, is so neat. And like having that to grow up with is just
It's awesome.
wonderful.
Syndrome's
It's absolutely
one of the best
wonderful.
villains of all time?
Syndrome is one of the best villains of all time, for sure.
For sure.
No
capes.
Yeah. And then the adventure, like the ride that it takes you on, following all the different characters.
Did you
is
ever
so
have,
cool?
Did you ever have the Incredibles 2 video game or the Incredibles video game for the PlayStation?
Huh.
Oh, it's so much fun.
I heard good things.
So much fun. And
Yeah.
you were able to be Dash, and you were late for school, and you had to run like through the street and like dodge like buses that were trying to hit you, and like so much fun.
Nice.
It was so great.
Nice.
So great.
But yeah, it's unmatched.
Yeah.
So that's really all I can say about that. I'm kind of losing it right now.
I think I am too.
But
I think I'm.
that's all right.
I think I'm a little
Because we
out
made
of
it to the top of the list.
We did. We are finally done.
Yeah.
So, I think that's going to do it for this. There's not a whole lot of other stuff to talk about. Check out not Wednesday. Check out Friday. Friday, the podcast. Our podcast will be up on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play, where we review spoiler-free and then spoiler-filled review of Toy Story 4. That's very, very, very exciting. And then be ready for next week, because next week it's all about Spider-Man, baby.
Yes.
It's all about him. We are going to, the podcast next week is going to be our spoiler-filled, free and filled review of Spider-Man Far From Home. And then our live stream next Tuesday will probably be just those who want to chat about the movie. Like, we'll probably just start a chat. Anything else we want to talk about, things like that. It's going to be very, very exciting. Look forward to that. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Dorks Next Door. Take out the E from next. You can follow me on Twitter at I'm Andy York. You can follow Jason on Twitter at D&D with the letter D. And yeah, I think that's going to do it. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you never miss out on a video. Comment down below if you are watching this late as to what your favorite Pixar and Spider-Man movie is of all time, and tell us why it is not The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Or your entire list.
Or the entire list. Yes,
And
give us your entire list.
Tell us which is better, Coco or Wally.
No, tell us which is better. Tell us which is better. Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, or The Incredibles 2. There we go. That's a good one.
Cars or Coco?
Coco. By far. A lot better. A lot better. A lot better. You just offended an entire nation.
No.
I'm joking. No, but still, it's I still enjoy it better than Cars. But that's just me.
Yeah, my only nation is Radiator Springs.
And with that, we're going to kill it. But we appreciate you guys joining us. We really look forward to talking about Spider-Man Far From Home next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we will catch you guys next